bayan na nasa ibang bansa. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Secretary Bello, and I believe that some of our colleagues and members may have some questions that may be asked of you, and if you're free to divulge this information, kindly do so. So I will open the questions and interpellation to our members. Congresswoman Emi De Jesus.
Thank you, Secretary Bebot Bello. Kasama ko po yan dati. Marami po kaming ano niya. Anyway, at this point, dahil nabanggit po ni Secretary yung kaugnay ng proteksyon, na dito pa lamang yung mga agencies, ang gusto ko pong tanungin yung pong representative ng PASEI, si Miss Edwina Beach, at saka yung pong how do you appreciate ito pong effort na ito with regard to protection ng ating mga aalis na manggagawa, dahil almost always ang problema naman talaga dito pa lang sa Pilipinas yung mga recruitment agencies. So may I hear your reaction or appreciation, Madam?
Magandang umaga po sa ating panel at sa lahat po ng narito, Secretary Bello. Ang mga license agencies po, especially for the HSW, actually, Congresswoman, napakarami na pong batas, rules na ipinataw. Subalit kung minsan, nagkakaroon po kami ng problema sa implementasyon. But we are really, actually, the industry is monitoring very well the deployment, especially of the vulnerable sectors of the HSWs. But of course, hindi po namin nakokontrol lahat. At saka, meron din po tayong nakikita sa ating mga rules na I think ngayon, ang ating DOL ay talagang hinihimay-himay at talagang inaayos accordingly. Parang nang sa ganon ay hindi na maulit yung mga lapses ng some of our colleagues. Like sometimes they don't know read no write, nakakapunta abroad. Yun hong mga bagay na hindi namin madaling nakakalampas sa ating mga government agencies kung minsan, po. But now, with the efforts of our DOL, ay talaga pong iniisa-isa na ngayon. At it looks like, even us in the industry, we are now doing and holding meetings and policing ourselves to be able to send qualified. Medyo po kulang kami ng training. And I think it is because of the, the rush of sending people overseas. But it looks like this time we are not looking at the rush. We are looking at really qualified workers to be sent and so that they will be empowered. Well, tagal na ho namin gustong gawin yan. Kaya lang ho medyo hindi na Ngayon with the leadership of Secretary Bello, we hope and we know that we are on our way. Just what happened to Kuwait is a very, very big achievement in the industry. Marami pong salamat.
If I may, follow-up question lang po. Kasi when you speak about industry, ang ibig sabihin lang naman ito, it's a private ibig sabihin, industriya po ito ng ating mga ahensya, recruitment agencies. When you say policing your own ranks, ano po ang mga, how do you graphically demonstrate this or share with us? Kasi, sabi nyo nga rin, ang tagal na, pero, ito pa rin talaga paano nyo po, can you possibly share with us? Pero before that, ilan po ang license according to your, ilan po ang license natin na recruitment agencies sa ngayon?
I think
Excuse
POA
me,
will be the
for
best.
purposes of order, maybe you could address the chair so that all the minutes will be taken into account. So, thank you.
I think POA will, Mr. Chair, I think POA will be more adept to answer how many because we don't really have the exact numbers.
Your Honor, may I reply?
Yeah.
We have a total of 1,200 agencies, Your Honor. 800 are land-based and 400 are sea-based. Ito po yung baluarte niyo, Honorable Chairman. So, 1,200 agencies.
Mr. Chair, for my second question,
Sorry, ano po
the policing, ano po yung...
okay. Sa industry ho, we are different, ano po yan, meron po kaming for HSW, which is the domestic helpers, we have for the skilled and professionals. Ngayon po, yung in the area of the household workers, meron po mga asosasyon that is handling the policing and the crafting of ways to really be able to send only qualified workers for overseas. Iba-iba po kami, meron pong focusing on skilled and professionals, and we have the HSW sector, which is also represented by their own organization. Ang PASEI po kasi is mostly skilled and professionals, but since we are one of the pioneers in the association in the recruitment field, we are also addressing the HSW sectors.
Mr. Chair, just to comment also, when you say policing, mas naka-address po ito doon sa qualification ng ipapadala. Hindi pa po yung policing for those agencies na hindi license o yung nakakalusot, no? Hindi pa po yun ang binabantayan nyo. More on addressing qualified overseas workers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, we'd like first to acknowledge the presence of our colleague, Congressman D.B. Sabelliano of the 1st District of Ilocos Sur. And you want to interpolate or ask questions?
No, I just want to ask
Yes.
questions. Kasi I've heard from the, naimbaga-biga mo po, Sekretaryo. I heard from the Secretary, magandang plano ng POA. Pero minsan, no, first hand kasi, marami yung nagte-text sa akin ng mga OFWs na yung kawawa na sila. So I've heard about how to protect our OFWs. Pwede bang ano bang gagawin talaga natin para maprotektahan yung mga Pilipinong nagtatrabaho sa abroad? Ano bang kailangan natin gawin? Kasi parang pagpunta sa abroad, dehado na tayo kaagad eh. Parang nakakaawa. And we were talking about yung natin, yung administrative, yung how to improve the department or yung mga unang-una sa region ho, puros job orders yung mga natin eh. Yung mga workers natin. Wala akong permanente, job orders, nakakaawa. So, meron bang program ng Department of Labor na bigyan natin naman sila ng sapat na pondo para makatulong kasi itong mga nire-recruit nila galing sa probinsya eh. Then kasi they mentioned about training centers. Ba't ang laki ng pondo ng OWA, ba't di natin lagyan ng mga training centers sa mga probinsya para doon well-equipped na lahat ng mga tao natin? Kasi napakalaki yung pondo ng OWA. I think, ilan ba yun? 19 billion yata. Ganun ang kalaking pondo. So, ba't di natin gamitin para sa kanila? And also, napapansin ko na pag nasa abroad na sila, parang hindi nila alam kung saan sila pupunta, saan sila magtatago. Wala ba ho tayong mga abogado na pwedeng tumulong sa kanila? Kahit bayaran nila natin tig 1 milyon na rin lahat na abogado na magtatanggol sa kanila. Kasi pag doon, talagang yung setup kasi natin, para lahat ng laborers natin na magpunta abroad, nakakaawa na. nilalapastangan. Lahat ng mga employers, they're taking advantage sa kanilang lahat. So, ano ba yung talagang pwede natin gawin? And maganda budgeting time na ho para mabigyan na natin ng pondo because yung sa ano yung balik assistance, I think last year 40 million pero ngayon 20 million na lang. So pwede bang kaya it's a good thing nandito secretary kasi matagal ko nang gustong sabihin to Mr. Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll hear from
Your Honor.
Secretary Bebot.
Naimbag ang bigat mo, metapo. Your Honor, we share the concern of the Honorable DB. Pwede DB, di ba? In fact, Your Honor, for the information of this Honorable Committee, basically, the protection that we extend to our overseas workers are the bilateral agreements. At added to that, kasi alam naman natin kung meron mang bilateral agreement, nasa implementasyon rin yan eh. Na bagamat merong mga provisions ng dapat ay protektahan ng ating mga manggagawa, eh hindi natutupad. Kagaya na lamang yung issue ng cellphone. Dapat yung ang cellphone ng ating mga overseas workers, kanila eh. That's their only means of communication to the outside world. Pero kino-confiscate ng ng mga employers nila. But having said that, Your Honors, we came up with a command center in the department. Dito, malalaman natin lahat ang problema ng ating mga overseas workers. Doon, pumunta ka lang doon sa polo office doon, you can communicate with us. In fact, initially, Your Honors, kwan pa lang, ang communication is through our national office, pero we will regionalize itong communication line so that any parent, any husband, any relative of an overseas worker who is concerned about the situation of his or her overseas worker can call. Pwede na lang sila mag-usap through Skype. So kung nandun ka sa Kabuga, Your Honor, yung nanay pwede niya makausap. Pupunta lang sa regional office namin sa Region 1 at makakausap niya yung kamag-anak niya na nandun at malaman niya ang tunay na sitwasyon ng kamag-anak niya.
Kasi like kung kunyari from Kabuga, that's my bayan ko, district ko, that's in Ilocos Sur. But ang regional office is in La Union. So yung layo na naman yun, wala silang pamasahe kasi mga laborers itong mga te. Ano pa yung talagang pwede natin gawin? And yung isang nakikita ko doon, una-una yung mga nagtatrabaho sa OWA, puro mga job order yan eh. Kung titingnan niyo yung mga sweldo nila, yung transportation allowance, etc., napakalito. Napakaliit. Actually, yung sa Ilocos, kino-commend ko siya eh. Kasi napaka-dedicated niyang tao. Kahit wala siyang pamasahe, talagang nagpupunta siya ng sabi ko dapat malaman nito ni secretary sa kasipagan mo kasi talagang sinusuyod at talagang masipag ho sila. Kasi talagang naging parang advocacy na rin nila tumulong sa ibang tao. So ang ba hindi lang sa Ilocos, so, kung sa buong Pilipinas, kung ganoon ho na job order lang yung mga natin, yung mga workers natin, eh baka hindi ho natin matutugunan lahat ng mga problema nila. And especially, di ba, we were always saying na yung mga OFWs natin, mga overseas workers, sila yung mga number one sa remittance, sila pinakamalaking binibigay sa Pilipinas. So, dapat naman tulungan natin in a way na protected sila, lahat ng benefits sila, nakukuha nila, kasi sila naghihirap para iangat ang bansa natin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Totoo po yun, regional muna, pero eventually aabot kami sa municipal. From regional, provincial, and then municipal po. Unti-unti lang kaysa medyo maghihingi pa kami ng konting budget sa DBM eh. Pero Your Honor, alam nyo, unang action dapat dyan ay manggagaling doon sa aming polo office. Yung ating mga administrative staff, yung aming welfare officer, yung assistant labor attaché, at saka yung labor attaché natin, yun ang dapat tumugon sa kanilang pangangailangan. And I made it very clear to all our staff in all the polos in all over the countries where we have. Sinabi ko, isang reklamo lang ng isang OFW, recall kayo lahat. And I did that in quiet, Your Honor. Nung nalaman namin na hindi ni-report yung pagkawala ni Joanna Demafelis, yung administrative assistant, yung welfare officer, assistant labor attaché, recall lahat pa sila ngayon. Andito na po sila. We will not allow any of our workers in the polo offices not to take care of our overseas workers. Kaya nandyan sila eh. Mataas ang sweldo nila, magandang pribiliyo nila, pero pag pinabayaan nila yung ating mga overseas worker, recall po sila. Immediately po yan.
Mr. Secretary, saan natin pwedeng i-report yan?
Meron po tayong hotline 1349 po, Your Honor. At pwede naman yung akong tawagan po.
Hindi, marami kang trabaho. Yung mga ano lang, kasi trabaho nila yun eh. Iba yung trabaho mo, Secretary. Iba.
Command center pa po, Your Honor. Yung command center.
Yung command center, okay. 1349, okay.
Yeah, before we recognize the Deputy Minority Floor Leader, I would like to also respond to the matter raised by Mrs. Beats. And the response of the Secretary is there are 1,200 agencies. Under our existing law, it's POEA who's supposed to review the licenses of this and renewal. So I'd like to bring this matter to the Secretary that maybe the POEA should be empowered to make regulations to determine what are those countries that are really suited for the kind of recruitment placement that the private sector is also proposing. Because one caution that I'd like to bring to this committee and to the department is what we call the regulatory capture. If we will allow the private sector to determine the number of employees and the kind of employment that will be sent, then they're dictating. This is where the balance, I think that's what Mrs. Beats is trying to say, the balance of the private sector together with government who has the information to determine the nature, the kind of deployment, and the kind of salary and protection should be balanced. Because if we allow market forces to prevail, and this is the most dangerous, if the market forces dictates, we will send anyone for the sake of money. So I think this is where the department or POEA should assert itself, should assert and say it has to stop when there is an overflow of a surplusage of workers, because if not, then you are actually violating some of the law. And this is where I'd like to call the attention of the Secretary that he has done well when it comes to agreement. Is there any legislative requests from the department for us to look into so that it can properly be implemented so our workers can be protected? So I just want to raise that point because it's very important when Ms. Beats mentioned that there are too many recruitment companies who is monitoring them and whether POEA is actually on top of it, because we're talking about 1,200 deploying, as of now, 10 million Filipinos. So is POEA capable of monitoring all the licenses? Because in other private entities, you need to look at performance. What kind of employment have you sent? What is the nature of the contracts that you've sent? So I think it's already an ISO standard, and this should be looked into, Mr. Secretary, that POEA should be empowered and actually be responsible for giving licenses, and the buck stops there because that's the law already.
Thank you, Your Honor. In fact, Your Honor, we know that under our existing law, it is the POEA that grants the license and the renewal of license. Ang hindi ko maintindihan, bakit pagdating ko, yan na naging practice sa amin na ang Secretary of Labor na ang nag-a-approve at nagre-renew. Eh, dahil dyan po, Your Honor, napunta naman kayo minsan sa opisina ko tambak ang papeles ko. Kaya napakaganda po yung suggestion nyo na ibigay na lang sa POEA yung authority to approve the license and to renew or to cancel or suspend. Pero having said that, Your Honor, masakit mang tanggapin. Yung POA kasi medyo naging problema ko sa aking trabaho. Ang daming mga mga kalokohan nangyayari dyan. That is why we are even in the process of cleansing the agency. dahil marami pong mga kasamaan natin sa trabaho na nawawala sa landas. And as soon as we can cleanse the agency of these misfits, kung tabaga, ibibigay na namin yung authority na yon para sila na mismo ang mag-screen, approve, and then kung merong magkakamali, they can suspend or cancel. Basta ang mahalaga yun, i-devolve na namin yung authority sa administrator ng POA.
So are we hearing, Mr. Secretary, that the present POA administrator will now be making this approval because the private sector is here? Is it now POA or will it still be the DOLE because the law is already existing that it should be the approval of the POA administrator? So we'll allow the Secretary to probably let us know which policy direction.
Mr.
No,
Chairman.
the Secretary has the floor.
Yes, Your Honor, as I was saying, it should be the POEA who should approve, renew, cancel, or suspend. Yung I don't know why when I came in, naging ganun ang practice. Kasi it's because of the fact that the Secretary of Labor is also the chairman of the governing board of the POEA. Kaya siguro nagkaroon ng ganong practice na lang. Pero maganda po yung suggestion niyo po na we empower the POEA para kung may magkamali, sila naman nagutin, hindi na po ako.
So, Mr. Secretary,
I
that
would
from now
welcome
on,
that practice.
they're listening if the POEA will now be responsible in the issuance of the licenses?
I think the agencies will welcome that, Your Honor, para hindi na sila lapit-lapit sa akin.
So, the licenses will now be processed by the POA administration.
Yes, Your Honor, pero yung we have to first complete yung cycle of purging the agency. Okay. Oo, meron pa naman. In mga 2-3 months, ma-address na namin yung problema na yun, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, Secretary Bellion. Ibag nga bigat po. Yes, for just some questions, Your Honor, Mr. Chair. Ilan po ba yung total workforce ng labor po? So that I could compare with the OFW. Ilan po yung total workforce, if you have an idea po?
You are referring to DOLE,
The
Your
total,
Honor?
yes po, DOLE. The domestic and the OFW do have, just a ballpark figure, Your Honor.
41 million total, including domestic and...
Yung total workforce natin, Your Honor, is 41 million.
So 41 million, how much is those belonging to the OFW?
Malit lang, Your Honors, mga 4 point plus, Your Honors, na obyan. Kaya overall nga, umaabot lang tayo. Yung documented, Your Honor, umaabot lang tayo na mga 8 o 9 na milyon.
I tend to agree because in the report of collections from the OWA, it is your report, Your Honor, that sea base is 1.5, probably seamen, no? And land base is 4.5. So it's around 6 million documented workers. Is that correct to conclude, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chairman?
From our record, Your Honor, more than 6 million ang ating mga documented overseas workers.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's why I'm asking is because I would like to ask the Honorable Secretary if it would really be the policy of the state or of our government to export labor in the other countries, Your Honor. Because the impression here is that we lack work within the Philippines.
Actually, Your Honor, the final objective of our President is to recall or repatriate all our workers abroad. Because we know the social implication of parents leaving their family just to look for jobs abroad. But then, the reality is we do not have the jobs available yet. That is the reason why our President has embarked on a program called Build, 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 where he will invest about 7 trillion to come up with infrastructure program that will generate, according, this is not my estimate, Your Honor, because I do not have that capacity. Our economic advisors estimate that with the build program of the President, we will generate about 2 million jobs a year. So that by the end of the term of our President, we will be having 10 million jobs for our Filipino workers. And this may now bring about the dream of our President to repatriate all our countrymen and come back to their families and work here, Your Honor.
It is nice to hear that, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chairman, because I have observed that we are involving here 22 host countries having at least 30 bilateral agreements. When we speak of those 22 host countries and 30 bilateral agreements, we have to enter into a different conditions per agreement, Mr. Secretary, and that it involves different idiosyncrasies. And of course, there's a saying that beggars cannot be choosy. So when we go to the other country, we have to really work there in accordance with their condition too. And it would really be difficult for us not to adjust with those conditions because there are the employers. Mr. Secretary, am I correct in my observation, please?
That is true, Your Honor, that when our overseas workers are compelled to go abroad to look for jobs because of the lack of job availabilities here, talagang we go there and we rely on the existing bilateral agreements to provide protection to them. Kaya nga lang, the reality, Your Honor, is that kahit nandyan yung bilateral agreement, mayroon din mga employers na hindi ginagalang yung mga agreements na yan. That is the reason why that we are now revisiting all these bilateral agreements to provide for punitive remedies in case of violations of these bilateral agreements.
I'm driving to the last point, Mr. Chair, it might be allowed, yes. In the monitoring of our overseas workers, Your Honors, Mr. Secretary, what are the agencies involved, Your Honors, aside from DOLE?
Ang number one po dyan, yung kay Administrator Kagdak, yung OWA po. That is why it is called Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. Yan ang pananagutan po niya.
How about the DFA, Your Honor? Is it still involved?
course,
Especially in human rights violations. Because I'm going to ask you, I'll go straight so that I'll save the time of the committee. How about the Commission on Human Rights? Do they touch base with you? Because under the constitutional mandate, they are also tasked or mandated, even in their statutory mandate, to investigate human rights abuses, even of Filipinos residing abroad, Your Honor. Is the Commission on Human Rights touching base with your offices in order that we could really help those OFWs abroad who really suffered from human rights violation, Mr. Secretary?
Thank you, Your Honor. Actually, you are correct, Your Honor, that the mandate of the Commission on Human Rights includes their advocacy for the protection of the rights of our workers abroad. Unfortunately, I don't think they have time to consult with us. They are more concerned with political crime sightings, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Chairman, that is a very important point because even the Commission on Human Rights has the mandate, Your Honor, to investigate human rights abuses against our OFWs. So, Mr. Chair, if we could really see that as far as this point is concerned, that the Commission on Human Rights does its job, Your Honor, please. Thank you.
Would you want to make a resolution that we will invite them in the next hearing so they can be asked whether the human rights actually is looking into the human rights of our OFWs abroad? Would
yes,
you want
Your
to
Honor.
make that
Could I make a formal motion,
Yes,
Your Honor?
yes.
I move, Your Honor, that we invite the chairman of the Commission on Human Rights, Your Honor, in order to shed light before this committee whether or not that they have indeed, let's say, obliged with their mandate as far as the OFWs are concerned, Your Honor, the human rights abuses against them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second to that motion?
We second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Upon motion of Congressman De Vera that the human rights be called to this committee to elaborate and to explain their mandate of protecting our OFWs, even if they're abroad, because that's part of their mandate, and to explain to this committee what actions they have done, and properly seconded by our Vice Chair, Congressman Castello. The same is hereby approved, and we will ask the COMSEC to issue the invitation to the Commission of Human Rights to be here in the next hearing. We would like to acknowledge, of course, our Vice Chair, the Honorable Winston Castello of the 2nd District of Quezon City. Now, there was also an issue raised by Congressman De Vera on the number of sea base. I would like to be clarified whether the JMG, because it was mentioned that, how many was that, Congressman? 1.564. Yeah, because I think the contract of POA should be reviewed because it's based on the deployment contract and not actually the actual seafarers. So can we hear from the Joint Manning Group, Captain Enrile, if there are issues on this?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair, and to the members of the Honorable Committee. We've been asking on the data of the actual seafarers on board. Actually, what we have now from POEA is the number of deployed seafarers on an annual basis. I think the last number is about 420,000. That's the number of deployment. But if we will ask the data on today, how many seafarers are on board, I think we don't have that number yet. And this is the discussions we have during the MITC. So because this is very important for the Joint Manning Group, because we need to identify really if there is a shortage of seafarers, because as per BIMCO, there is a shortage of 25,000 officers worldwide, and there is a need for us to develop. So if we will know the number and if we will know the positions that are actually deployed, then we can make the necessary arrangement on how we can develop and increase the number of our officers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So there's an issue, Mr. Secretary, that was being raised, that the number of deployment you have, but we can never pinpoint how many of them are actually on board vessels. And we need to match it. I guess we're taking this opportunity, Mr. Secretary, that all of this will be raised because this involves protection, deployment of our OFW land base and sea base. And I think the issue on the sea base is that we can never at any given time know how many of them are on board.
That is correct, Your Honor. Unfortunately, there is a problem on the structural arrangement in the department because originally, Your Honor, Marina was under our jurisdiction. But for reason unknown to us, it was transferred to the Department of Transportation. That is the reason why that we cannot now come out with a total number of seafarers engaged, Your Honor. What we have is that we have a total of more than 400,000, Your Honor. In 2016, we had that number. Pero hindi namin na ma-monitor na yan kasi nasa marina na po yan. Ang naiwan lang sa amin, yung National NMP, Maritime Polytechnic, Your Honor. Kaya hindi ko maintindihan ba't naiwan sa amin yung NMP na nandun naman ang marina doon sa kabila. Dapat magkasama yan eh. because they complement each other. The NMP is the school where our people are trained to become seafarers. And then eventually they work. And their work is now regulated by the Marina. Dapat magkasama yan. Pero we always observe departmental courtesy, Your Honor. So yun ang aming situation ngayon, Your Honor.
Then we will look at the legislation that would solve it of what agency should really handle the sea base. And following your comments, Mr. Secretary, maybe we can put it into another department if you're willing to let them go, if they will be under the Department of Transportation finally, because that's how they are organized abroad. Yes. The maritime sector is under one department, yes, the Department of Maritime. So we will look at it because that's an issue that is ongoing, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Yeah, Congressman Castello.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I may just address this to the Secretary of Dole. Sir, you are one of the brightest appointments of the Duterte administration. Congratulations. And I'm sure because of your competence and track record, you will initiate a lot of changes and reforms in your department. And I was so impressed with your statement a while ago that there would be a massive repatriation of our kababayan working abroad, so that they will be able now to be reintegrate in the Philippine economic setting, especially that there is now the advent of the build of the administration, which I know you're also very much involved there. Can you just explain, sir, that this would not only be a motherhood statement? Is there already a grand design, a detailed program? Is there a matching of qualification? Is there a task force that would handle it, that would ensure that all of the there will be a campaign for the repatriations of our kababayan working abroad? At the same time, when they reach the airport, there will be welcome here, not only with their families, but with jobs, decent jobs waiting.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, and thank you so much for the undeserved commendation, Your Honor. Actually, Your Honor, we are now in the process of profiling all our overseas workers. Ang pinaka-immediate namin ngayon yung mga nirepatriate namin from Kuwait. Because fortunately, merong Japanese businessmen who visited us 2 days ago, and they need immediately 1,000 OFWs from, I do not know why they want to get the repatriates from Kuwait, but they are focusing on the repatriates from Kuwait because their business, Your Honor, is in-flight catering. And they want to get our repatriated OFWs to complement their business in Japan. And the promised compensation is twice what the repatriates are getting from Kuwait. Now, as to whether the build is just a rhetoric or not, Your Honor, I would like to inform this honorable committee that in our prior to this last cabinet meeting, we had the Secretary of Transportation presenting the total infrastructure program that will be implemented as early as May, and about 80% of them will be completed before the end of the term of our President. Kaya ang sinasabi po ni Secretary Tugade na by 2021, meron na po tayong subway mula dyan sa Commonwealth papunta sa Quezon Avenue. At saka meron na tayong railway system papunta sa Clark. At ang ano dito, siguro it's possibly because our President is Mindanao based, we will have a circumferential railway system in Mindanao connecting Davao City, Butuan City, Surigao City, Cagayan de Oro City, and Bukidnon, Your Honor. Circumferential po yan, iikutin. That will be completed by the year 2001, Your Honor. So, with this activity, economic activity, Your Honor, we can expect a lot of job opportunities para sa ganon ay mayaya na natin yung ating mga kabayan na bumalik. Dahil alam naman natin na kung meron silang choice at may trabaho dito, they would rather be here and be with their family, at the same time have a good job for their family.
One of the minor follow-up, Mr. Chairman, if I may. One of the reasons why the Philippine economy is robust right now here in Asia is the source of income of the OFW. Do you honestly believe, sir, that the repatriation of all, you did not qualify, sir, all of the Filipinos working abroad would be beneficial in the long run sa ating economy? Then number two, no, para dire-diretso na ho, sir. Up to, do you have a timetable? Do you think that we will be able to 100% repatriate our family? If so, how many years would that take?
Your Honor, tama po yung observation ninyo na hindi siguro abrupt ang repatriation nila. But we will focus on the repatriation of our overseas household service workers. Kasi pagka binawi natin agad yung ating mga skilled workers, mag-collapse yung economy ng mga ibang bansa na yan. That is the reason why, Your Honors, if you will recall, nung nag-total deployment ng ating Pangulo dyan sa Kuwait, nabulabog ang Kuwait because alam naman natin na yung workforce nila doon na yung maasa sa ating mga skilled workers. Kaya siguro we will start with the repatriation of our household workers, and then unti-unti we will address yung, kasi mahirap din mapilit yung iba na napakagandang kanilang trabaho well paid sila doon. They in fact earn more than, in fact just recently meron akong pinirman, Your Honor, he is just a physical therapist and he is bound for the States. And you know how much he's getting paid for? He's going to receive $8,900, more than what our president is receiving, Your Honor. Kaya yung mga ganun, hindi na natin mainggan yung bumalik sa atin dahil napakagandang kanilang opportunities doon. Pero yung mga siguro na if it's just a difference of about 10 or 15,000, baka maingganyo natin silang bumalik dahil napakahalaga sa ating mga kababayan yung kasama nila, yung pamilya nila.
We were in Doha, Qatar about 8 months ago with Congressman Jan Bertis, and one of the sites that we visited is, I think, what you call that, Jan, the social services building, wherein our kababayans who were victims of abuse were housed, and some of them wanted really to be repatriated. At because of bureaucracy, hindi po sila nakakalis on time. I'm sure you have instituted a lot of changes because of this Kuwait experience. How easy is it now, sir, that our workers subject to a lot of complaints and abuses by their employers would easily be repatriated?
Thank you, Your Honor. Actually, the issue of repatriating our workers in Qatar now is not that serious, Your Honor. Okay naman sila doon. In fact, although there are some of them do not have jobs, they opted to stay hoping that nandiyan pa rin yung job opportunity. Pero we have addressed the problem of repatriating them. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, wala naman masyadong problema doon sa repatriation nila.
Sa Qatar, sir, it's a personal experience that in the social services building that we visited,
you're referring to the shelter, Your Honor. Yung shelter.
That's the shelter.
That has been reduced substantially.
It's a two-story building, and there are a lot of domestic helpers that sought refuge there. Even a mere possession of pictures of their employers, they have been blamed. So just a minor infractions, these employers send them out, and they have to rush in those shelter building.
That is true, Your Honor. In fact, most of them go to our shelter hoping that they would be repatriated.
So funds are there. fund.
After a while, they change their mind and when they're offered jobs, they accept the jobs. At nagkaroon tayong problema sa mga skilled workers, Your Honor, dahil because of the diplomatic problem of Qatar with the Middle East countries, nagkaroon ng slowdown.
If indeed they decide to be repatriated, madali lang ba ho yun? It would take a lot of time. My point is, meron na ba ho tayong task force that would help them? Is there already funds available at any time
Meron
that
po,
they
Your
wanted?
Honor. We have in fact yung RRT, yung Rapid Reaction Team. And if you are familiar with the movie personality Arnel Ignacio, who is now with OWA, Your Honor, he is a deputy administrator doon. He has been assigned to visit all our polo to find out the condition. They did that about 2 weeks ago. They were there for 2 weeks and tried to assess the situation of all our overseas workers and at the same time to immediately provide assistance, Your Honor.
We were able even to visit the Hamad Hospital, wherein one of our kababayans, because of massive depression, he tried to kill himself. And the Polo office and the embassy, the consul, they were so active that they provided a lot of medical and legal and moral support, sir.
I think, Your Honor, you're referring to OFW Opido. Yeah, na-repatriate na po si Opido. Pero patay.
Yeah, it's good because when we were there, we were informed that he will be facing criminal charges because according to Muslim law, that even if you were if you survive your attempt to take your life, you will still be liable.
Na-repatriate na yan, Your Honor, according to Administrator Hans. Na-repatriate na po yun.
Thank you very much for that information, sir.
Mr. Chair.
We have 2 more interpellators, and considering the time of the Secretary, we will allow Congressman Bertis and Congresswoman Amy and Congressman Caminero to be the last interpellators. So, okay. Congressman Bertis has the floor now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Naimbagabigat mo, Secretary Bello.
Kastamit king kapo.
Idol. Sir, bago ko simulan yung mga, kasi most of the, medyo bad news eh. I just would like to inform our honorable colleagues that in cooperations with POEA, sir, yung mga na-distress na mga displaced worker, na skilled worker, more than 1,000, came to my office. And immediately, I talked to Administrator Bernard, because those skilled workers ay papunta dapat ng Kuwait, which is yung mga fast food chain na malalaki, McDonald's or etc. Then we were able to talk to the employer, sir. Ngayon, with the immediate help of Admin Bernard, na-transfer na po sila sa UAE. So, it's really a very positive move and I would like to congratulate Dole on that. Kasi po, nahirapan din po kasi yung employer. They try to find a solution kasi instead of this displaced worker, Mr. Chair, na matenga na lang dito. So, ang ginawa po nung may-ari, nakipag-usap po sa atin and then they just requested us na i-expedite yung accreditation process which was facilitated by POEA and Dole. Sir, in that regard, saludo po talaga ako sa inyo. Tungkol dun sa mga displaced worker, which meron naman po pala talagang solusyon eh. Huwag nating antayin na madaliin na ilip yung ban sa Kuwait. So there's a lot of solution that we can help together, especially the recruitment agency and the employer. And balikan ko lang po yung resolution ni Honorable Chairman and Honorable Ma'am Emmy tungkol dun sa Kuwait, sir. I just would like to ask the body and our colleagues from the executive, Mr. Chair, ano po ba yung nangyayaring agreement ngayon between our Philippine government and Kuwait? Is it an agreement or an MOU or a bilateral agreement? Yun po ang first question ko, Mr. Chair.
And this is addressed to the Secretary.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Actually, Your Honor, a bilateral agreement can either be a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement. Pero sa akin naman kasi, yung nomenclature is not really that significant. Ang mas mahalaga sa amin po ay yung provision contained in the memorandum of agreement or memorandum of understanding. Ngayon, for the information of the Honorable Congressman, after 2 days of heated negotiation, Your Honor, they came up finally with a consensus on a final draft of a memorandum of understanding. And nakita ko po yung kasi hindi ako nag-participate po doon sa negotiation but I saw the memorandum containing all the possible production of our overseas workers. And in addition to that, which is a very uncommon, ay meron yung na-create na joint committee who will constantly review the situation and the contract of our overseas workers doon. May periodical yan. Joint committee yan between Kuwait and our country. Ngayon, the ambassador came to see me yesterday asking me when I would be available to go to Kuwait to sign the agreement. And I said, I'm willing, except that it's Holy Week next week. So, if it's possible, I could go there after the Holy Week. But then, this is also subject to the fact that our president may also opt to go there and sign. Because he told me in our meeting, when I mentioned to him the provisions of the MOU, Your Honors. Sabi niya, pag maganda yung MOU na yan, payag akong pipirma. So, if that is the case, baka we will have to wait until after Ramadan because we cannot just send our president without sufficient preparation. Pero ang Kuwait, inihari. They are inihari for the signing. That's why I forewarned already the Honorable Bertis na by April 7, we may have to fly to Kuwait for the signing.
Mr. Chair. Sorry, sir. Mr. Chair, the reason I ask for that, kasi for the longest time po, me as an OFW in the Middle East, especially I've been assigned in Kuwait also in Saudi Arabia, in the absence of the local protections or law to protect our migrants, the MOU and the bilateral agreement will just be another piece of paper. Diba? Kasi nga, since 2016 po, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, we already filed resolutions for the moratorium of deployment of domestic workers to Kuwait. Unfortunately, Mr. Chair, instead of reducing the number of domestic worker bound to Kuwait, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, Mr. Secretary, nagbalon po yung ating deployment sa Kuwait, which is, alam naman po natin, wala tayong garantiyang proteksyon para sa ating mga kababaihan. Di bali po yung hindi ko sinasabing di bali. Let's not talk about the skilled worker because we have a bilateral agreement that covers the formal workers. Except in GCC countries po kasi, it is GCC-wide that domestic workers are not covered by the labor law. So, until now po, even we sign a MOU or a bilateral agreement, which is very clear na rin po dun sa mga provision na hiningi natin sa MOU, tulad ng cellphone, number of rest days, tapos access to communication, etc., proper standard of living, and a decent place to stay. Sir, nasa employment contract po yan Mr. Chair. It's already stipulated in the contract, but lumobo tayo ng 176,000. Ibig sabihin po, Mr. Chair and Mr. Secretary, that meron pong pagkukulang din sa post natin kasi meron tayong tinatawag nung araw na right sizing Pagka medyo mataas ang maltreatment cases, the Department of Labor reduce the number of deployment on that certain category to between 5 to 10. If we will try to compute over the period of 3 months, Mr. Chair, meron po tayong stranded something like 25,000 na na-issuehan ng kontrata. And with all due respect, Mr. Chair and Mr. Secretary, ibig sabihin po yan, nag-i-issue tayo na mahigit 100 kontrata sa Kuwait Post, which is hindi po talaga pinapayagan ng opisina nyo. Ang sa akin po, sir, baka pinapakalma lang po natin ang ating taong bayan na maayos na itong pag-uusap, tapos back to business na naman tayo. And one last thing, Mr. Chair, para isang buhos na lang po because of time. Para bang nakikita ko rin, sir, lahat na lang po ng ating programa at preparation is hindi pa umaalis yung domestic, yung isang worker. Pinaghahandaan na natin na i-rescue natin siya. May command center tayo, tapos may 24/7 tayo na. Para bang wala ba tayong programa, Mr. Chair, na ang hindi yung pag-rescue kagad ang goal natin Para bang can we not find a program, Mr. Chair, that before why send them if we will just rescue them, 'di ba? Why? Yun lang po ang sa akin, Mr. Chair. Thank you po, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Like to respond to that?
Very nice words of wisdom from the Honorable Congressman, Your Honor. Actually, I share his view, Your Honor. Kaya lang, the fact is, there is a law in Kuwait, and it is called the Domestic Workers Law of 2015 po. So, it is not correct, entirely correct, ni hindi na protektahan yung ating mga manggagawa when they are there. Ang mas mahalaga po dyan, yung ating bilateral agreement. No, po, yun mas mahalaga. And then again, as an assurance to the Honorable Congressman, the signing of the MOU does not automatically mean that I will recommend to the President the lifting of the total deployment ban. As a matter of fact, Your Honor, I would like to inform this body that the President, when he declared the total deployment ban, he issued a statement that for him to consider lifting the total deployment ban, there must be a MOU signed by both countries, and that Joanna Demafelis should be given justice. Kahit na merong MOU, kung hindi mabigyan ng katarungan si Joanna, hindi po ililip ng ating Pangulo. But having said that, Your Honor, kung sakasakali na mayroon na tayong MOU at nabigyan ng katarungan ng ating kababayan na si Joanna, I have to assure the Honorable Congressman that I will not automatically recommend to the President the lifting of the total deployment ban with respect to the HSW. In other words, I may be prepared to recommend lifting of the total ban with respect to the skilled workers, but not with the household service workers, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Secretary. I think that declaration is very clear, that not the signing of the MOU does not mean business as usual, that DOLE and POE will study whether our workers there will be adequately protected or they will actually get jobs that are actually suitable for them and not subject to abuse. We now have the Congresswoman Amy. And before that, we'd like to acknowledge some of our colleagues, Congresswoman Franz Castro of the Party List ACT Teachers, and Congressman Peter John Calderon of the 7th District of Cebu. And the presence of Congresswoman Micaela Villalago.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick manifestation lang po doon sa, kasi I really appreciate the questions coming from Congressman De Vera and Vice Chair Winnie with regard to and of course, no, yung mga nauna nagsalita with regard to the forced migration. Gusto ko po talagang i-emphasize na karamihan po talaga ng umaalis ng bansa ay napipilitan, ano, because of the lack of job. At yung question talaga ng assurance ng repatriation na pagbalik nila ay may trabaho, na ang kasagutan natin ay yung isa pong flagship program ng kasalukuyang gobyerno, yung pong BBB. Ang reaction ko kanina, parang ang layo ng hugot no? Parang yung blueprint ng ano ba talaga ang plano, tapos ang sagot ay BBB. Parang I just would like to manifest na parang hindi pa ito yung hindi pa ito yung sagot. Ang layo ang layo ng hugot talaga. Halimbawa kasi sa kasalukuyan, when we speak of HSW, ano ang pwesto niyan, na kumbaga, alam ko namang recognize din ng lahat and even our good secretary na ang ugat naman talaga nito ay malalim at kailangan talaga ng mas mahabang pag-aaral para masabi natin na mayroon na talagang blueprint na such that ma-prevent na natin. Kasi nga, ang mantra nga namin, trabaho sa Pinas, hindi sa labas no? Yun naman talaga yung, palagay ko, bawat Pilipino, yun naman talaga ang kagustuhan. Just to manifest na hindi po sumasapat, no? Yung ganoong response kanina, kaugnay ng ano ba talaga yung plano in the next 6 years. Question ko na lang po, corollary rin to doon sa detalye ng question ni Kong Bertis. Nabanggit na po na maganda I really appreciate na mayroon tayong determinasyon na pagka tayo ay gagawa ng MOU, may pagtitiyak talaga na mayroon ding prevention. Kasi halimbawa po, itong MOU na sinasabi nga ni Kong Jan, andyan na naman yan dati pa yung hahawakan nila yung passport, andyan na yan dati. So, ang tanong ko po, ano yung bago na may dadagdag pa kung pwedeng sabihin ngayon ni Secretary? At saka, how do you address yung pong kafala? Kasi ito yung isang cultural prevailing relationship na nagagamit sa Middle East countries with regard to relationship ng employer at saka ng ating mga HSW. Siguro, gusto ko lang palalimin na as a representative of the women here in our Congress, talagang pagkausapin po talaga ng OFW, yung question po talaga ng mga DH ang isang napakalinaw kasi karamihan naman po talaga yung bilang natin ay kababaihan. Kaya ito pong kafala, paano po ito natin to i-address dito sa ating mga MOU or bilateral, not only with Kuwait, doon pa rin po sa ibang bansa sa Middle East. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Your Honor. The term kapala is made possible if the employer confiscates the passport of the overseas worker. Now, Your Honor, that is a thing of the past. Because under the Memorandum of Understanding, it is clearly stated that the passport of the overseas worker has to be deposited with the Philippine Embassy. Originally, we were thinking that it should be kept by the overseas worker. Pero pinag-isipan rin namin yung safety, yung safekeeping ng passport na yon. So we decided that it is more safe if it is deposited with our Philippine Embassy. With this arrangement, Your Honor, an additional provision that the employer cannot transfer the worker or the overseas worker to another employer without the written consent of the overseas worker, subject further to the written approval of our labor attaché. With this mechanism, Your Honor, hindi na po mangyayari yung kapalan na yan. That is already a thing of the past, Your Honor.
Are we through, Congresswoman?
I'd like just to give a chance to my colleague here. Marami po siyang gustong itanong kanina pa. At ang understanding ko rin po, binukas na rin yung aming resolutions ni Congresswoman Violago. I think more details will be asked on the issue of Demafelis. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the last to interpellate the Secretary is Honorable Caminero, because I believe that the Secretary has to go and all the undersecretaries are here and Dole is well represented, so I guess they have been authorized to answer on behalf of the Secretary. Congressman Caminero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, former colleagues and esteemed duly Secretary. Mr. Chair, I just want to inquire if the department by now has an operational central tracking system of all our OFWs, wherein they have the mechanism on how to determine the strata of our OFW. Because the fact, once a Filipino will have to work abroad, of course, considered siyang OFW. From a very lowly domestic helper to a high-profile contract worker, they are considered OFW. And the issue now, how are we going to determine their location, their numbers, etc.? Because if we have to ask now, how many doctors are working abroad? Is that in the central tracking system? How many nurses, how many, etc.? And that periodically, suppose a certain office under the Department of Duly will have to regularly monitor as a proactive monitoring of our OFW. Meaning, isang buwan ka pa lang sa employment mo, meron ng opisina nagpapalok o ano bang kondisyon nyo dyan. Totoo naman yung sinasabi ni Congressman Bertes na bakit pinaghandaan natin. Parang alam na natin na mayroong mangyayari. Kaya nga, kung maiisip natin na meron tayong central tracking system na malalaman natin anong bracket, anong strata ng OFW na palaging na-argabyado. Kasi pag mayroong na-argabyado dito on the level of its domestic helper, general agad ang order. I-withdraw lahat. Ang nangyayari, merong maraming portion of our overseas workers na argabyado din. Bakit? Sama sila. At saka one very issue, kahit siguro i-obligar pa nating pauwiin, pero makaramihan dyan ayaw nang umuwi kasi they are now raising their family abroad. Dala-dala na nila pamilya doon eh. Yung mga pamilya, yung mga anak niya nag-i-eskwela na doon. Meaning they have totally a comfortable life there. Despite of being an OFW. Ang issue ngayon, paano natin alam yan? Kaya nga, Mr. Secretary, if by now there is an operational office under your department that is handling this central tracking system, that is certain family of OFW can even look into their cell phones or whatever in the regional office kung ano nang nangyayari or what is the status of their worker of their family abroad. So, yan lang siguro muna for the meantime that we want clarification from the Department of Labor.
May we hear from the Secretary whether there is an existing central tracking system for all our OFW and how we can improve the same and classify all our workers. I think the issue that being raised by Congressman Caminero is categorize them into the profession.
Then there is codification. Iko-codify natin.
Thank you, Your Honor. We appreciate the very valid observation of the Honorable Compañero. Classmate ko for 3 years. Anyway, Your Honor, for the information of the Honorable Committee, we mentioned earlier yung command center. This command center does not only consider providing assistance in case of problem. Even before they are deployed, Your Honor, they are already classified, Your Honor. Meron ng classification yan. Meron ng recording ng kanilang profile. At meron yung, binanggit ko kanina, yung joint committee. This is a committee between the receiving country and our country na minomonitor yung katayuan, the situation of the overseas worker. That is already a practice that has to be observed now, na pagka pinapunta natin yung ating overseas worker, nakamonitor na po yung kanyang katayuan, yung kanyang classification, yung kanyang possible problem, and we have this joint committee that will monitor yung kanilang situation. And this is a periodic monitoring, Your Honor.
Meaning, Mr. Chair, that is now handled by the command center. And this command center, under what office, Mr. Secretary?
This is a multi-agency, Your Honor, DOLE, OWA, and POEA, Your Honor. And we involve the agencies. If you, the Honorable Congressman Bertis will bear us out, we had 2 sessions consulting them on how we will include in the memorandum of agreement the bilateral agreements that we enter into, so that our overseas workers will be optimum protection ang mabibigay natin sa kanila.
So, Mr. Chair, we have, within that, we have the feedback mechanism that can immediately monitor in case of distress of our overseas worker and respond before the situation gets worse.
That is correct, Your Honor. Kaya nga nabanggit ko nga pa kanina kung halimbawa, but initially kasi dito lang sa national muna na halimbawa you are a husband and your wife po nandun, nag-text sa'yo na may problema siya o inaano siya ng kanyang amo, you just go to our office and by yung Skype, you can talk to your wife. Agad-agad yan. Ngayon, nasa national pa lang, pero as I mentioned earlier, eventually it will be regionalized, provincialized, and municipalized. Para sa ganoon, yung mga nandun sa malayo, makakausap nila yung mga kamag-anak nila na nandun sa overseas work nila.
Are you done, Congressman Caminero?
Is it now appropriate for us to say to our constituents, the family of OFWs, that all of these are in place in the Department of Labor and Employment, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, Your Honor, and I would like to give you the number. I think it's 1349 and meron pang bago Yung isa. There's another number, Your Honor.
Mr. I can just interject. Sinubukan ko, magaling ko. Sinubukan ko 1349. Congratulations, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Before we allow the Secretary to excuse himself, I just want to speak on behalf of our committee that we don't need a crisis to happen again before the department will act accordingly. I guess the move of the President and the department on coming up with a bilateral agreement came about because of a death of a Filipina. So I hope that the department has learned that we will be more proactive together with our private sector, because the recruitment comes also from them. And I would like to commend also the private sector, the recruitment company that is following all the rules and regulation, that with them and and government together with the labor force is making a great deal of contribution to our country. So we just want, hopefully, that let's anticipate problems rather than reacting to the problem. And I think this committee would want to monitor that we don't want to activate ourselves again because of a crisis, Mr. Secretary. So thank you for your time. And one more request, but before doing so, we would like to recognize the Honorable Rosemary Arenas of the 3rd District of Pangasinan. Good morning, Madam. Congressman Sabiliano, last-minute request for the Secretary.
Last-minute request lang ho to. Mr. Secretary, who's in charge yung mga OFW sa nakapag-serve na sa jail? Sinong in charge dito?
Kami rin po. Meron din kaming dyan. Opo. Ang OWA,
So it's OWA.
Opo.
So are you familiar with the case of Beatrice Asuncion Romotap held in Jeddah? And kailangan kasi niya, dapat nakapag-serve na siya, but she has to pay 450,000.
Wala.
blood money. So, paano natin matutulungan yon?
Sir, sa ngayon po, we are coordinating po with the DFA with regard to OFW Asunccion's case. And we are working on bringing her home po, sir.
So, paano yung bayad niya? Kasi laki nun, 450,000, that's, di ba?
Pinag-uusapan ho namin with DFA, sir, kung anong solusyon doon sa problema.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Because of the testing of Congressman Sebeliano that the 1349 works, and because of the question of Congressman Cabinero, would the good secretary allow us to do an ocular inspection of this command center, so we will really see
By all means,
what the government is doing in setting up the command center?
By all means,
So
Your
we will
Honor,
wait for that invitation, Mr. Secretary.
This may motivate this committee to recommend some budgetary allocation.
So we will wait for your invitation to
Yes,
send
Your
to our
Honor. Yes, Your
committee
Honor.
that those who ask the questions and want to be assured, or OFW, that there's really a working number with the Department of Labor.
Yes, Your Honor.
So we will wait, Mr. Secretary, for that invitation for our ocular after when we convene again, because we will go on session break.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And we'd like to thank the Secretary for being here, but the rest of the DOLE officials will still be required to be here for some questions. Thank you so much. Okay, motion to suspend